Okay dudes, welcome back. This is episode 8 of our Metroidvania tutorials, and today we're going to do SilkSong's controversial Pogo. So what I mean by that is we're going to recreate Hornets Pogo from SilkSong. It's not super tough to create, but it is super fun to use. And the idea being that when we press down, we're going to go at a 45-degree angle in our Pogo instead of straight down. And I didn't have an actual animation, so I just used our ear spin animation, but I'll explain how we're doing this. But it works like this. So if I jump and press down, I'll pogo into the enemy like so, and I'll bounce away. And the same thing over here, I made like a little pogo obstacle course where you can 2 and 3. So that's what we're going to do in today, and let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to create this animation. And all I did for this animation was I took the ear spin one we had, which is nice and simple, and I copied this and I just moved some settings about, tweaked some attack collision and stuff like this. This is a very large attack collision box. You'll probably be scaling this down in the actual game. This was just for testing, but I set the box basically to the bottom right of the player, and because we have animation flip on, this will turn whenever we turn. So basically when the player is facing right, this box will be here. When the player is facing left, the box will be here. And this is the important area that we want to collision on, because this is the direction we're going to be coming in at the enemy from. I do like this to overlap the player's body a little bit as well, in case we're kind of coming straight down, because we want to give the player as much leeway as possible, albeit we don't want a huge collision box like this. So we've done multiple times before, moving collision boxes, setting up animations. I'm not going to go over that. You guys know how to do that. Just when you're done, make sure you add the animation over here in your player. This is getting quite big now, but just make sure you get it in here, and once it's in here, set the directions it'll use and you'll be good to go. So from here we're going to pop open our player script. Boom. And you'll see I've already got this created. It looks a little bit messy, but it's not too hard to follow, I promise. So starting out, you're going to want to make shortcuts of every single possible state that can go into the pogo attack. In my case, that is jump, it is the jump fall, it is ear dash, it is double jump, it is ledge fall. Why is my attack up here? It shouldn't be up here. Give me a second. This is being a little silly. Let me grab this guy and get him out of the way for now. Okay. So from all of those, what do we want to do first? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to check if the inputs are pressed. So what I done was I created a new state, and I called that state Pogo direction. Now Pogo direction check, I believe it's called. Yeah. And so what I done is basically when we're jumping or when we're falling or whatever, I just put in a condition here. The condition is satisfies any, and what we're doing is we're checking for 2 inputs in our input conditions right here. Trigger on input is true, and if we pop this open, the first one we're going to see is if the down button is being pressed. Now not moment pressed, being pressed, because we're listening for this button all the time, and this is not the button that's going to trigger the actual action. Then the second one right here is going to be if our attack button is being pressed. This is moment pressed, and it is acceptable frame count of 1. So this means if we're holding down and we're in the air and we immediately press attack, we straight away switch to our pogo direction state right here. And make sure you just set this condition to AND, because satisfies all basically means input conditions and these regular conditions. Satisfies any means either satisfies input conditions or satisfies regular conditions. So you also have to have your conditions in here. So this is going to be an AND. So basically if we're holding down and we press attack, we want to switch to our pogo state. So you can copy this link in, paste it on all the other ones that lead into our pogo state. You can call this whatever. I've just called it pogo directional check, but this state actually does nothing, right? I mean genuinely nothing. So if we look in our pogo direction state, you'll see all it does is continue the previous animation. It lowers our horizontal speed to 75, which is %, which is not a big deal, and that's it. So this is basically just a state between these and these, so I can actually get these conditions in to check for our direction, because if I didn't have this, I'd have to run the same checks that we have going on here. I'd have to run them in all of these guys, and it would just get really unwieldy. So the other thing that's important to note is that when you're on jump, in your and all of these conditions really, you'll have an apply 1 frame delay on exit. Make sure this is disabled. This is super important because this can make your game feel really laggy. This works well with like UI and HUD stuff and stuff that you need to make sure everything has had time to run. But something that you want really responsive gameplay wise, turn this fucker off. Apologies for the language. So going back to our direction check, again, why does this keep happening? This seems like an engine bug where it's just putting everything where it's not supposed to be. Going back to our direction check, all it does, it takes over the current animation, nothing else, and we're good to go. So then from here, we need to create 2 states, one called Pogo right, one called Pogo left. Now these are pretty important because these are the direction that we're going to Pogo in. If you only had a straight down Pogo, you wouldn't need this and you wouldn't need these, but I'll explain how to do that at the end. So we'll start with Pogo left. We create the Pogo left state, and what we're going to do is run a check from our Pogo direction check into our Pogo left. And this is going to be a pretty simple one, so I'll show you guys really quickly. It uses 2 variables as the check and an AND condition. And so to show you what these variables are, the first variable we're checking is the variable, for myself, visible direction. This is like super important. It's this basically tells the engine what way your character is facing. And what we're checking is that's greater than 90 degrees, because you'll remember in our enemy AI video where we had our circle, 90 degrees is down, 180 degrees is left, 270 is up, and obviously 0 and 360 are right. So what we're checking here is if we're basically, I'm going to draw this out real quick. So basically you'll remember this from last time. We had 0 degrees pointing to the right, 90 degrees pointing down, 180 degrees pointing left, and 270 pointing up. I couldn't fit this in my little image, but you get the idea. So basically, when do we want to do the left pogo? Well, we want to do the left pogo when we're in any of these areas here. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. So if we're any of this, we want to pogo to the left, and if we're any of this, we want to pogo to the right. So we're working on left now. So what do we know? We know 90 is the lowest point we want, and we know 270 is the highest point we want. So if the angle that we're facing, our visible direction, is anything greater than 90 and less than 270, we want to do the left pogo. And what you'll see in here is I put in these conditions, which is variable, myself, visible direction, greater than 90, and of course variable, myself, visible direction, less than 270. If you're not sure how to do this, I'll go over variables one more time, but we should know this by now after working through all the other videos. So basically we go to add condition, we go to switch variable changed, we go in here and we choose variable, and then we choose from myself. We can take variables from other objects, and then this is the key one we're looking for, visible direction right here, and in this case we will be setting it greater than 90, and we'll add it in. But of course I've already done that. Do the same thing, check it's less than 270, and you're good to go. So what that means is if we are here now and we're in jump, for example, and we are holding down and we press the attack button, we check our direction and the game says, is our direction greater than 90? Yes. Is our direction less than 270? Yes. Then we go to the pogo left state. Okay, so for the right state it's slightly trickier, and I'm going to explain how this works. And the reason it's slightly trickier is because 0 happens to fall in the middle of our state. Again, our 0 is right here. So we'll have a couple of checks we need to run here. The first thing we'll need to check is our visible direction greater than or equal to 0, and is it less than 90? So basically this. So this will be one check. But then for this one, we're going to need a different check, because we can't check, we can't check is it greater than 270 and less than 0. So we'll have to use 360 here as well, because we know this is also 360. So what I'm going to say then is, are we greater than 0 and less than 90, or are we greater than 270 and less than 360 for the second curve? And so what that'll mean is if we're greater than 90 or less than 90 and greater than 0, this one will be true. and if we're greater than 270 and less than 360, this will be true, which is both the directions we want for facing right and doing our pogo down right. So to set that up, you'll see I've done the exact same thing. The first thing I've checked is, are we less than 90? The second thing I've checked is, are we greater than 0? Then you'll notice this third check is an OR check, right? And that is done again in here, right here, connection with previous condition and OR. Make sure to set this one to OR, or you can do it in here. And basically we're saying, are we greater, if we're none of these are true, are we greater than 270? And if we're greater than 270 and condition, are we less than 360 or equal, right? And so basically that covers the entire right hand side right over here with 2 checks instead of 1. And that means if either of those conditions are true, after the OR or before the OR, then we'll go to pogo right. Super simple. Okay, so now we want to set up our actual pogos and what's going to happen. So I'm going to use pogo left as the example, but you'll be able to interpret pogo right from this, but it's not a big deal. So the first thing we want to do is we want to switch to our animation. So select animation. And what I done was I created our new animation earlier called pogo drop, which was a duplicate of our air spin, just with hitbox on. So we just make sure we select that, and for this one you can hard code the direction because it's only going to be going one way. So I chose left. Then next, is it a jump? No, it's not a jump. In our action settings, use variable jump. No thanks. Ignore input, because once we go into this state, we want to keep the player in it. You're not going to be able to jump out of it till it ends. You're not going to be able to like end it early. You have to stay in this pogo till it moves the distance it's going to move, and that's fine. Ignore facing direction changes. You can leave that off. Is not affected by gravity. I set this to true, and the reason I set this to true is because we're using a directional move down here. So this means that gravity does not have any effect on our pogo, none whatsoever. Gravity reduction rate 100, that means it's 100% not affected by gravity. That's perfectly fine. We don't need to mess with gravity direction to facing. I doubled the horizontal move speed and the vertical move speed. This is just to make them fly through the air a little bit quicker. Jump force multiplier is 100, doesn't really matter. Make sure this apply 1 frame delay on exit is off. So why did I turn off our gravity? Well, I turned off our gravity simply because what we're doing in here is we are using direction ID. First we're setting 135 degrees rather, sorry. And you'll remember from here, halfway between 90 and 180, 135. So that means this pogo is going this direction, exactly this direction. With our gravity off, if gravity was on, what will be happening is we will be getting pulled this way because the effect of gravity would pull us down quicker. So with gravity off, we know we're going to go on a straight 45-degree angle. So we set this to 135. We set the direction ID to left down. You can set a movement distance if you want. I don't want to. And that's pretty much our pogo done, right? So when we press the button, that's all the way and all the movement in the air and exactly how the pogo works. Pretty cool. So from the right, exactly the same, except for we set the animation facing direction to right, and in here we set the directional move to 45 degrees. Why 45 degrees? Again, because 45 is halfway between 90 and 0, so we're going to come exactly at this angle. This is what we want. Again, no gravity, because if we have gravity, we're going to get pulled down this way. So that looks kind of like a mess, but I hope it makes sense. So that's our entire movement done. Pretty much that's the pogo itself done, which is pretty cool. So now what we want to do is, when the pogo ends, when and how can the pogo end? Well, for me there's 3 situations where it can end. Number 1, we collide with something. Right? That is covered by a state I created called pogo bounce. Number 2, we land on the ground. That is covered by the land state. We have this as part of our jump. You can create a shortcut to it. Number 3 is neither, and we stay in the air when the pogo ends. And for that we want to switch into our jump fall. Again, you create the shortcut to your jump fall state, which you'll have over here from our jump. We'd have created all of this already. So we create those 3 shortcuts, and we're going to go in order of the least important to the most important, just to get this working. Just because pogo bounce takes a little bit of setup. So we're going to start with jump fall. And basically from our pogos, you'll see I have 2 jump fall shortcuts here, but I could have one and run them both into it. It just looks a little bit cleaner. and I like the pretty design. Okay, so to go from pogo left to jump fall, what we're saying is, now this is where priorities right here, conditional priorities, are going to be quite important again. So make sure you set this one to 0. This is our least important priority. And all we're going to do, we're going to set this to 0. We're going to say satisfies any, no inputs, none of these need to be selected. All we need is a condition, and that condition is going to be after elapsed time. In my case, I set it to greater than or equal to 0.35 seconds. You can set this to whatever you want, to whatever feels good. Basically what we're saying is, if we do our pogo, and we're in our pogo animation, if nothing else happens, after 0.35 seconds, switch me to the jump fall state. Super simple. And that's that one covered. It's the exact same down here from the pogo right to the jump fall. Super easy. The next one we're going to do is we're going from our pogo to landing. And you'll see I've got a few bits and pieces going on here, but the first thing we have is, this is all the stuff that's in the land thing by default. Some of these we haven't got to in the tutorials yet, so don't stress too much about them. But basically you do have a land state for when you come out of jump, and from that land state we should be going into that land state, should I say, from our pogo. Only a simple condition again. The condition between pogo right and land is that we contact with a tile, satisfies any, and basically in here all we're saying is if the bottom of us contacts any tile. So basically if we're pogoing and we hit a tile, we need to end the pogo and switch to the land state, which will in turn will put us in the idle state. It's super simple. I can show you guys that in action real quick. So let's do that. Is my music gone too loud again? Hope I don't have to re-record the video. So in game, I'm here. So we jump and we get this full pogo, but if I see that, as soon as I hit the tile, which is exactly what we want, really nice and really smooth. So that's what our land state does. What our other state does is if I jump, see how I had to drop normally for a little bit there, because the 0.35 seconds passed by and then he switched into the fall state. So that's what those two do. They're super easy to create. Now the third state, and the most important one, is pogo bounce. So this is basically what happens if we hit an object. We want to shoot up into the air when we hit that object. So let's start with the condition. We create the state called pogo bounce. Let's start with the condition. The condition to get to this is contact with hit area. So what this means is in our enemies, let's look at this guy. I need to make sure I'm still recording. I am. So in our enemies, we have our hit area 2D and our hit collision. So basically what it means is when our attack collision that's inside our attack area 2D goes inside the enemy's hit collision inside his hit area 2D. That's it. That's all that condition means. And vice versa if we use a different one. But for now, that's where we're at. So basically, if I overlap the enemy's hit condition with my attack collision, go to our pogo bounce, you'll see that runs the exact same from both of these. Contact with hit area, collision. I don't know why this is at the top actually. This should be the bottom. that's not good. So if the bottom of me overlaps that, and if the bottom of me overlaps that. So incoming contact direction, yeah, so that's where we're getting hit from. Okay, so anyway, I must have been trying something else. But basically if the bottom and the bottom overlap, then we go to pogo bounce. So pogo bounce is pretty straightforward, right? So in here again, I switch back to my ear spin animation. If you have a different animation, feel free to select it. The direction doesn't matter, it'll all say. We turn on a jump, so we say, hey, when we hit this, these collisions overlap, make us jump. We're not using variable jump because we don't want pressure. We're not using ignore input or ignore facing direction. We are using is not affected by gravity, but this time only 25%. And that's just to make us, when we bounce off something, have a little more control and a little more floaty in the air. So that's fine. Our horizontal speed multiplier is 100, which is fine. Our jump force multiplier I've set to 110. Now again, this is, you can tweak these numbers to get the value you want. I probably just liked how much this made me bounce with the extra bit of force on the jump. And then apply 1 frame on exit, no. So that's it, that's super simple. And what happens now is we're jumping, we hold down, we press the attack button, this condition rings true. This goes in, it checks our direction. Let's say our direction is left, 170 degrees or whatever. Then it turns us this way. Wait till I restart the playlist. And our greater, so we're at 170 degrees, it makes us pogo left. Then we overlap a hitbox with our attack box of an enemy. It throws us into pogo bounce, which makes us jump. And all we want to do then is create another shortcut of our jump fall state. And what we're going to say is if we reach the top of our jump height reached. We've been through this, used this one before a couple of times. Basically it's in here, right there, and you just add it. And that just says if we're at the top of our jump, make us fall. So that's pretty much exactly how the pogo works. Only 20 minutes to explain, which is really good, but that's the basic idea. So what I'm going to try and do is do it in game and quickly talk you guys through it as it's happening, just so this stuff sticks. But I mean, that's how you do the pogo. It's super basic. Now if you want to do a traditional down pogo, I'll get to that in 2 seconds. I'm trying to fit the game and this window in the screen at the same time, and it's not going too well. But you'll see here, these are our states, and you'll see this is our guy. So basically, jump, right? So when I jump, I hold down and press attack, and it immediately does this. So what happened that time? I jumped, I held down and pressed attack, bopped in here. We were facing to the right, so it bopped in here. And then we done the jump and we hit the land because we hit a tile. Super simple. Let's go again. Let's try and bop on this guy's head with I'm only half in screen. Yeah. So we didn't get the jump because we weren't clean inside the enemy, you know. He only does the bounce if we're clean. The first one, you'll notice we weren't clean, and the hit detections didn't have time to trigger before we passed through the enemy. Sorry about the noise there. So again, but with that second one, in general, we jumped, it checked the direction, we were facing left this time, it popped us in here, and then when we hit the enemy, it triggered this pogo bounce, and that just threw us up in the air, and jump fall made us come back down again. So that works exactly as intended. So now let's say you want a more classic pogo. Well, this is even easier, right? So up here I've created a down pogo state, and all we're doing for this down pogo state is we'll be deleting this, we'll be deleting these two, and all we're doing is we're connecting our button input straight to down pogo. And down pogo uses our pogo drop. You'd have to tweak the animation, and it just moves us straight down. So again, remember this, 90 degrees is down. So we set ourselves to move at 90 degrees, but other than that, it works exactly the same as our diagonal pogos. We don't have a direction when we're doing this one in our animation facing direction. It'll keep whatever one it had, and we just run out of this into jump fall, into pogo bounce, and into land. That's all there is to it. It's like the exact same, just much simpler, and some people will prefer it, so I said I'd explain really quickly and touch on how it's done. So guys, what I want to do now that SilkSong is out and I'm having such a good time with SilkSong is I want to do some more SilkSong style features going forward. So if there's anything in SilkSong you'd like me to recreate in Action Game Maker, let me know and I will dive into it. But that's how you do the pogo. That's the hardest part of the game, the most controversial part of the game. Personally, I love it. I think it's really good. But I know it is a challenge for some people. So if there's anything in the game, leave me a message, drop me a line, let me know, and I'll try and implement it and explain how to do it. Because with this tutorial series, I am kind of struggling. Like what we've got going on now is, right, we've got our damage here, where we take damage. I haven't tutorial that for you guys yet, I don't think. We've got our basic movement, we've got jump, we've got double jump, we've got coyote time, we've got a dash, we've got an ear dash, we've got... So I haven't done this bounce, Mario bounce, I'll explain that in the video. We've got back dash, I will explain how to do this little heal skill that I've created. We've got a jump attack, which I haven't explained how to do either. So we have enough for a couple of tutorials, but I really do want to get the SilkSong stuff up and running for you guys, you know, and that would be, I think, really cool. And so if there's any features in the game you want to see in this game, then let me know. And I'm just going to do a bit of self promo here because I'm kind of vain like that. Like and subscribe, first of all. I'd really appreciate it. It makes the channel worth doing, makes the videos worth recording for me. Secondly, I have a Kickstarter currently up and running for my game Llewl and Lyre of Two Worlds, which is an RPG, not a Metroidvania. It's right here. I'll put a link in the description. But you guys, if you could follow that, right? A follow means the world. I don't mind money. Like, it's not, we're not actually looking for money yet, but the follows really mean a lot and do a lot for the game when it comes to getting backing and funding. So if you guys could give that a follow, I would really appreciate it. We are also on Steam. If you could check that out, I'll also be a link in the description. Give us a wish list, that would be pretty awesome as well. We're kind of struggling to keep momentum up. We had great momentum with wish lists at the start. We're kind of struggling a little bit now to keep things up and keep things moving. So I would really appreciate if we could get that like ticking in the right direction again. What else? Oh, I will be uploading the Metroidvania tutorial game again to itch, the latest updated version, as soon as I get a chance. I am pretty busy, but that'll happen. So yeah, that's it. Like, subscribe, follow the Kickstarter, follow wishlist to Steam if you guys can, and throw any requests or features you would like to see implemented in this Metroidvania. Throw them into the chat or hit me up on Discord. I'm usually in the Action Game Maker Discord or whatever. And till then, take care and peace.